There's a part on your engine that costs less than a cup of coffee, takes about 10 minutes to replace, and when it fails, which it does quietly and without any obvious drama, it can trick you into spending hundreds of dollars fixing the wrong thing entirely. Mechanics see it constantly. A driver comes in with a rough idle, a mysterious oil leak, or a check engine light that won't go away. They replace sensors, gaskets, even injectors, and the problem comes right back. Because nobody thought to check a small plastic valve the size of your thumb. Today we're talking about the PCV valve, what it actually does, why it matters more than most people realize, and the 10 warning signs that tell you it's starting to fail. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for before this tiny part turns into a much bigger and much more expensive problem. Let's talk about what happens when it goes wrong. Sign 1. Rough idle or unusually high idle RPM. A failing PCV valve is one of the most common causes of a rough or unstable idle that mechanics see, and it's consistently one of the last things people think to check. When the valve sticks open or a connected hose cracks or splits, it creates an unmetered air leak directly into the intake, effectively the same symptom as a vacuum leak anywhere else on the engine. The engine's computer is trying to maintain a balanced air-fuel ratio, and it's suddenly getting air from a source it can't measure or account for. The result is an idle that hunts, surges, or sits noticeably higher than normal. If your car is idling rough and your mechanic is already reaching for vacuum leak spray, make sure the PCV system is on the checklist. Sign 2. Engine misfires. A disrupted air-fuel mixture doesn't just cause idle issues, it causes misfires too. When a cracked PCV hose or a stuck-open valve lets excess unmetered air into the intake, the mixture goes lean. A lean mixture doesn't burn as cleanly or consistently as it should, and the result can be misfires that you feel as a stumble or hesitation, especially under light throttle. The tricky part is that misfires have a long list of possible causes: plugs, coils, injectors, compression issues, and a PCV problem can look identical to all of them on the surface. If you're chasing a misfire and the usual suspects have already been checked, the PCV system deserves a serious look. Sign 3. Rough or hesitant acceleration. This one often gets misread as a fuel delivery problem or a dirty throttle body. When the PCV valve is stuck open, the constant air leak that works fine at idle becomes a bigger problem under acceleration because the engine is pulling much harder on the intake at that point and amplifying the imbalance. The symptom shows up as a hesitation, stumble, or general roughness when you press the accelerator. Not just at low speeds, but sometimes at highway speeds too when you're asking for more power. A scan tool showing live fuel trim data is your best friend here. Positive short-term fuel trim trying to compensate for a lean condition is a strong indicator that air is getting in somewhere it shouldn't. Sign 4. Engine running rich or lean. On the flip side, a PCV valve that's stuck closed rather than stuck open creates the opposite problem. With no way for crankcase pressure to escape, those blow-by gases start pushing back through the intake path and pulling oil vapor with them into the combustion chamber. The engine ends up running richer than it should as it burns off oil and fuel vapors together. Signs of running rich include gray or white-tinged exhaust smoke, a noticeable fuel smell from the tailpipe, and fuel trims showing negative numbers as the computer tries to pull fuel out to compensate. A scan tool with live data makes diagnosing this significantly more straightforward than guessing. Sign 5. Check engine light. On vehicles with electronically controlled PCV systems, a failing valve will often trigger a stored fault code and illuminate the check engine light directly. Common codes associated with PCV problems include P052E, P0171, system running lean, P0300, random misfires, and P053A. That said, and this is important, pulling one of these codes doesn't automatically mean the PCV valve is the only thing wrong, or even that it's the root cause. These codes describe conditions, not the specific parts that cause them. A P0171 lean code can come from a bad MAF sensor, a leaking intake gasket, a weak fuel pump, or a cracked PCV hose. The code is a starting point, not a diagnosis. Always trace the actual cause before replacing parts. Sign 6. Engine stalling. A PCV valve stuck wide open creates a large, uncontrolled air leak into the intake. At idle, when the engine is running on the smallest throttle opening and the least amount of fuel, that extra air can overwhelm the mixture badly enough to cause the engine to stall completely, especially when coming to a stop or when idling in gear in an automatic. This is another symptom that looks almost identical to a vacuum leak or a dirty idle air control valve, which is exactly why PCV problems get overlooked so often. The valve is cheap, it's accessible on most engines, and it should always be on the diagnosis checklist when stalling is involved. Sign 7. Increased oil consumption or unexplained oil loss. This is where a failing PCV valve stops being just an annoyance and starts causing real damage. When the valve sticks closed, pressure builds up inside the crankcase with no safe outlet. That pressure looks for any weak point it can find, usually the softest gaskets and seals in the engine. Oil then starts seeping from places it wasn't seeping from before: valve cover gaskets, the rear main seal, intake gaskets. Alternatively, if the valve is stuck open at the wrong time, it can actively pull oil vapor into the intake during hard acceleration or even at idle, and that oil gets burned in the combustion chamber. The result is oil consumption that doesn't show up as a puddle under the car, just a dipstick that keeps dropping between changes. Any time oil consumption goes up without an obvious external leak, the PCV system is worth investigating before assuming the worst. Sign 8. Blue or black smoke from the exhaust. When oil gets pulled into the combustion chamber, either because crankcase pressure is pushing it there or because the valve is drawing it through at the wrong time, it burns alongside the fuel. Burning oil produces a distinctive blue-gray smoke from the tailpipe, different from the white steam you'd see from coolant burning or the black smoke from an overly rich fuel condition. Black smoke points more toward a rich mixture, too much fuel relative to air, which can also be a PCV-related symptom if the valve is malfunctioning in the closed direction. Either way, significant exhaust smoke with no other obvious cause should always put the PCV system on your radar before you start chasing more expensive possibilities. Sign 9. Contaminated air filter or breather element. The breather filter on your engine's air inlet is designed to catch dust and debris from incoming air. When the PCV system starts failing and crankcase pressure rises, oil vapors and moisture can push back through the breather path, coating the filter element with oily residue and carbon deposits. If you pull your air filter and find it covered in oily buildup, especially if it hasn't been in service that long, that's a clear sign of excessive crankcase pressure escaping somewhere it shouldn't. Combine that with a slight unexplained uptick in fuel consumption, and you've got two data points pointing at the same system. Sign 10. Hissing or whistling sounds from the engine bay. A cracked or disconnected PCV hose, or a valve body that's no longer sealing properly at its mounting point, can create an audible air leak, usually a hissing or light whistling sound coming from around the valve cover or intake manifold area. These sounds often change pitch or intensity with engine RPM, and you can sometimes feel a slight vibration in the hose itself if you hold it while the engine idles. Any unexplained noise from the engine bay that wasn't there before is worth tracking down rather than ignoring. Hissing specifically in that area, combined with any of the other symptoms above, is a strong indicator that the PCV circuit is exactly where the investigation should start. How much does a PCV valve replacement actually cost? Here's the good news about all of this. The PCV valve itself is one of the cheapest fixes in the entire maintenance book. On most vehicles, the part costs well under $20, and on engines with accessible valve placement, it's a 10-minute job. Pull the old one out, push the new one in, done. Even if you've never done your own repairs before, this is a very reasonable place to start. The one caveat is that on some modern vehicles, the PCV system is integrated directly into the valve cover as a molded assembly, which makes access harder and the replacement cost higher. But even in those cases, it's substantially cheaper than the sensors, injectors, and gaskets people often replace first when they don't know what they're actually looking for. A part that costs less than a fast food meal can produce symptoms that look exactly like fuel system failures, vacuum leaks, mysterious oil consumption, and misfires, all at the same time. That's why the PCV valve catches so many drivers and even some shops off guard. Not because it's complicated, but because it's small enough to skip over when you're staring at a long list of possibilities. If any of the signs in this video sound familiar, check the PCV valve and its hoses before you go any further down the diagnostic rabbit hole. It takes 5 minutes and it might save you a very expensive wrong turn. If this helped you understand what's happening under your hood, drop a like, subscribe for more breakdowns exactly like this one, and let me know in the comments what your car is doing. I read every single one.